Going to do a get ready with me today and take a little bit of a walk down memory lane. So I guess I'm feeling just a little bit nostalgic. The boys are going home today and I didn't even get a chance to see them a second time. I was planning to, but the little one was sick the other day and his older brother apparently got it last night and he was throwing up. So they're just going to kind of lay low until they get to the airport to go home. So all I have on is my moisturizer at this point, and I'm feeling pretty shabby in the way I look today. Because I'm going to use the Miraness Flawless Revolution today as my base, and it has built in the moisturizer and primer, and it's got a color corrector also. I'm just going to apply this and we'll take it from there. This was the thing that the first time I used it, I said, oh my God, it looks muddy. The color looks really muddy. And it takes just so very little of the product to make it work. So bear with me for a second as I get this process started. I don't know why I'm feeling so nostalgic. Maybe because it's the end of the year, maybe because I'm getting old, maybe because life is passing by and I'm thinking about all the kind of fun, different, exciting, even some troubling stuff that happened in the earlier years, but all the things that goes into making up one's life. And for some reason, this morning I was thinking of, I actually, the title of this thing is going to be Get Ready With Me, My Encounter with Frankenstein and Other Trivia. I should start by saying that when I was young, we had a friend, they were neighbors in our building and friends at the time, and he was a stage manager and director on Broadway, so I got to see some really wonderful plays and meet some great people. He had a daughter who was a few years younger than I was, so she was like my little sister, and I would go sometimes to be company for her, that she would get to see the play and that she would have company while her dad worked. So I led a very special life in that way, because not too many people get to have that kind of experience at the young age that I did. Well, they were doing a play called The Lark on Broadway, and one of the actors in The Lark was Boris Karloff. Now, I imagine you have to be old to remember Boris Karloff, or perhaps you've seen some of the reruns, but he was the quintessential Frankenstein. I mean, he was Frankenstein, and he was a wonderful actor. He kind of wound up doing the genre of the the characters that were scary. And so as a young person, one could be mightily terrified of him. He was an imposing man. He was tall, not hugely tall, tall, maybe 5'11", 6 feet tall. And he had this deep voice. He had a very, very slight speech impediment that was endearing. It really was. So when I got to meet Boris Karloff, Frankenstein turned out to be the sweetest man that ever there was. He was the antithesis of the characters that he played. He was disarming. He really was. And he was very, very nice to the young girl that I was at the time. So it was a lot of fun meeting him. And as I've told you before, I met a lot of wonderful actors of the time. Just going to start my process for my contouring. I am very sad to report that I just got to see the boys for that very short period of time the other day. and I was going to see them again this morning before they were leaving for the airport. They're getting to the airport at 2 o'clock. So I was going to try to catch them for just a little bit. I only got to go out with Zach. I have a video that I'm posting today that I hope will get up before this one, in which I told you that Dylan had thrown up, so he couldn't go out to lunch with us. And sadly, I was only able to go with Zach. Having some alone time with Zach turned out to be a wonderful thing, and it's something that we really haven't done in many, many years. So it was a nice little benefit to what was otherwise a disappointing situation. I'm going to put on my butter bronzer. So I was planning to go back today, as I say, to just kind of catch a glimpse. I couldn't even get a photo. I got one photo of Zach at the diner, and he looked a little bit as if I was torturing him to get it. I'll put it in here so you can kind of take a look. But he's at that stage now. He's 16 years old, and he's a shy kind of guy to begin with. He's sort of very introspective, and much like his father, actually. So when I am with the two of them, typically, it is a whole lot easier because the time that I spend with the two of them, Dylan, unlike his brother, loves to talk, and he's very gregarious, and he's very, very, very outgoing, and it's so easy to kind of pull him into, well, you don't even have to pull him into a conversation. He's in. Just a second, just to define this area, trying to get rid of the jowls visually. You know something, this is not the right way to do it. Let me do it this way. It'll be easier. Let me draw my line again, just to kind of give it a more defined line of what used to be my jawline, and that has disappeared into the great beyond. Okay. Let me just do a little bit of work on this to get it worked in so I don't look as if I have a line of distinction. I don't want to go too low on my neck right now because it's freezing in the house. It's freezing out. It was in the teens this morning. Now the boys are going back to Scottsdale. I want to go with them. In several hours they will be enjoying the sunshine and short sleeve weather while I will be freezing to death in the frozen tundra. So I'm not going to get to see them today, and that's kind of a disappointment. So now I have to wait until the summer. Okay, back to my memories. Okay, I'm going to take the Pro Minerals, what is it called, Dune, and just add a little bit of that to the cheek color. Applying it to the apples of my cheeks. Well, that powder certainly popped back at me. Okay, I think that gives me a little bit of color. All right, what I need to do next, based upon the glowing review that Tati gave to the Catrice Liquid Camouflage Concealer, I decided to try it. And as you know, I like to fill in over here because that's the recess caused by the jowl in front of it. So in order to bring it forward, to visually have it look as if it's the same level and not sinking back, I do the lighter color there. And as you can see, it does seem to make something of a difference. So let me get that done. I will put some on the center of my nose and just apply that with my finger. I'm not ready to do my under eye yet because I'll do my eye makeup first just in case there's any fallout. Okay. I do like it. I do like it. We'll see how well it wears, but I do like it. I also had promised a number of you when I had mentioned it in passing to tell you a little bit more about the gift that my father gave me when he died. My father was a very strong man, both physically and emotionally. He just was. He was afraid of nothing, and he gave me a great base, and he gave me a great base from which to carve a life, because he always taught the golden rule, and he lived it 100%. And it made me always think about treating other people the way I'd like to be treated, whether or not they treated me that way. The interesting thing is, in my industry, people can get really jaded. And there are some people, when you would say, do unto others, they would finish it by saying, before they do unto you. And I was always horrified by that, because to me, be nice. It's so easy to be nice. Well, it's not always easy to be nice, but for the most part it is. And it's just, I don't know, seems to me what you put out there is what you get back. I'm just putting my primer on now. And this is my Urban Decay, which is my go-to. Not because I think it's the best necessarily, because I don't know enough about a lot of the others. So if you have one that you think is better, please, by all means, tell me about it. I will go with my Ciate of London palette today. I really like that one a lot and have used it quite a bit. I think that the shadows are really nice. And that is this. That was that Chloe Morello collaboration. So I am going to start with that. I'm going to do my transition starting with the cocoa. Anyway, my father, being the strong man that he was, and pragmatic. He was absolutely pragmatic. As a matter of fact, he was the kind of guy, he had a store. He had a United Cigar store in Harlem. It was a big store on the corner. And I used to occasionally go to visit him, and my mother. My mother worked with him often to make it easier for him. And I would go I had to take 2 trains to get there. Second thing I'm going to use now is the, what is it called? Nini. And that's, again, for transition, just to bring a little more color to the crease and to that area. One day I walked into the store as a teenager, and I heard my father talking to one of his customers, and he was standing behind the counter with an art book of mine, and he was showing the guy my artwork, and he was so proud. My father never shared things like that with me. He never said to me, I'm so proud of you, or I think you're talented at this, or whatever. And I probably was not the ideal child for him in so many ways, because I went through a period of time when I was very fearful. It started probably back in my childhood when I was with my aunt, and I fell off the sliding pond, and they had concrete in those days, and I landed smack on my head, and apparently I was passed out, and a crowd of people gathered around, and the people had told my aunt, who was frantic at the time about getting me help, not to bother. They said, she's a goner. So it started all kinds of stuff for me, but that was not the only incident. There were others. So to make a long story short, my father, I was probably a difficult child for him to have because, as I say, he was so fearless. But when I walked into the store and I saw the look of pride on his face, it gave me so much. And it's something that I carried with me for the rest of my life. It really meant a great deal to me. And the fact that he did it without knowing that I was there, I mean, it was real. And it just was terribly meaningful for me. So what I'm going to do now, let me see. All right, I'm just going to start with the Nini again, going into the corner. It really is not going to do much of anything. This is going to be such a long video, you're going to wind up hating me by the end. This is doing 0, going into the corner. So, I mentioned to you once before, I think it was in my Christmas video, that my father died on Christmas Eve. He had called me the day before to ask if I was coming over, and I told him I didn't know if we had time. And I told you that killed me for years to come. So when I got the call that my father had in fact died, we went running up to the apartment, which was no easy feat since we lived at least a 30-minute ride away. I'm going to take the copper next and go into that corner with the copper. We had no car at the time. We were married a short time, and we had to get a ride from my husband's brother, who drove us to the house. I was devastated. My father couldn't die. He was very young. He was not quite 60. He had had a heart condition. He had a couple of heart attacks before, but he could not be dead. He was strong. I couldn't conceive of a world in which he was not a part. For the next, it had to be close to a year, I would say, I walked around as if my world was black and white and everybody else's world was in color. It was terrible. It was really terrible. All right, I'm going to go into, with a smaller brush, sort of a detail, flat brush. I'm going to go into the maroon, the dark brown, just to give me some definition. I felt sometimes as if I was in a bubble, and I couldn't connect with the universe outside of the bubble because I was in a bubble. And my bubble was black and white. If any of you saw the movie The Wizard of Oz, the original, when The Wizard of Oz came out, it was in black and white, and then all of a sudden when she landed in Oz, there was bright color all around. That's how I felt. I felt as if the world outside my bubble was color. The world inside my bubble was black and white. It was a horrible, horrible time in my life. Terrible. I'm doing a really stinky job. I'm clearly not good at walking and chewing gum at the same time. Okay. So I would say, as I say, this went on for probably about a year. Nothing was right in my world, and I didn't know what to do with myself. All of a sudden, one night, my father came to me in a dream. And people often try to call those kind of dreams just a dream, just wishful thinking, just your imagination. I know to this day, all these years later, it was a visit from my father. And what happened was he took me by the hand and he showed me where he was. And it was beautiful. And he was happy. And it was full color. And there was grass and trees. And my father loved grass and trees and things like that. My father's big love and his big wish for his life in the latter years was that he could live on a farm. He loved animals, he loved nature, he loved all that kind of stuff. So that was the first night. He came back to me in a dream every single night for 7 nights in a row. And every single night he said to me at the end of the dream, after which he took me around and he showed me how good everything was and how happy he was and how well he was. He took me around, and every night I would say to him at the end of the dream, "But you're dead." And he would say to me, "No, I'm not." The 7th night, once again, we had this lovely visit and we spent this wonderful time. I can't tell you all the details of it anymore because they've faded a little bit with time. But at the end of that dream, I said to him, "But you're dead." And he said, "Yes, I am." And he never came back after that. It was his way of letting me know that, number one, there was continuity, and number two, we don't disappear. We don't disappear into nothingness. And for me, it has truly changed the rest of my life. I was very afraid of dying when I was young. Well, first of all, again, you have to remember, I came from older parents, and therefore, a lot of the relatives were considerably older. And as I say, my father was the baby of the family, so his family was considerably older, and people were dying off. So after that, I no longer had a fear of dying. Because once again, what I saw was he was still him. He was still very much him. I'm sure he was him, but so much more. It just made an absolute huge change in my life. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do. I don't really love the colors they have in this one that I could use for a base. So I think I'm going to do something a little bit unusual for me. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a bigger brush, and I'm going to use the Topless, which is their white. It's a matte color, and just use that as a base to go on. It's a little chalky looking. By the way, my father never came back after that, but he didn't have to. And the funny thing is, I had gone to a psychic many, many years later. He was somebody who came very highly recommended by some friends of mine. And I know there are people who really don't go for any of that. And I don't mean to offend anybody or their belief system. But I think we all have whatever beliefs we have that carry us through. So anyway, this guy, his name was Glenn Dove, and he was rather well known. And he said to me, he said, "You know, your father is here." And he said, "You know, your father would never have believed this stuff when he was around." And was that ever the truth? My father would 100% not have believed any of that stuff. And yet, he was the one who changed my world. So, though he died when I was young, he left me a great, great gift for the rest of my life. Okay, now I need to come in. I'm going to do something a little tricky for me. Again, because I'm so fly by the seat of my pants. I am going to take chartreuse. I'm going to mix it with halo. Halo is like a pale goldy kind of color. And let's see what I come up with to do this. Do we like this? Let's see. Maybe a little more of that and a little less of the halo. Oh, I like it. I like it. Look, I think it's giving a nice look. It was after that that I started to look for answers to a lot of questions that I could find no easy answers to. And that's when I started investigating, and I accidentally came upon the Edgar Cayce books, and I've read so many of those, and that led me to Ruth Montgomery's books and Jess Stern's book, and so many books. Spiritual books, but spiritual in the sense of being aware of other possibilities and other ways of doing things in other realms. So my life took a completely different road than it might have if my experience had not taken me where it did. All right, I'm going to, at this point, go in with Soul, and that is a real green. Let's see how that plays into the equation. This is totally unplanned, so if it turns out badly, oh well, I tried. Nothing wrong with trying something, by the way. I'm a strange bird. I already miss the kids, and their plane has not even gotten to the airport to take them. I'm always saddened when the people that I love leave. Well, I guess it goes back to Harry, you know, feeling abandoned. Well, not abandoned. I mean, I get, well, who knows? I don't want to look into it too deeply, but I'm sad. So I really, really wish we all lived closer. In a perfect world, wouldn't that be nice? I think I'm liking this. It's a little bit different, but I think I'm liking it. Okay. This thing, at this point, this is becoming a book. So I think what I need to do, you want me to go a little bit further? Maybe I should go a little bit further for you. All right, let me do a little bit under the eye. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go in with the green under my eye. I don't like it on this brush. Bad move. I need a different brush to do that with. Let's see. All right, I'll do it with this one. Nice. I hate when I make the face. Reminds me of a line from, I think it's called The American President, with Michael Douglas and Annette Bening, where she says to him, "There, you're doing it again, the face." That's what I feel like every time I look at myself doing the face. Okay, so I think having done that, I can, well, let me just, I may as well finish this part of the look. I'm just going to take a flat brush and I'm going to go back into that maroon, that dark brown, and I'm going to go very close to my lashes. Just to define them. And it's amazing by doing that and then tight lining how much it looks like I have much more makeup on than I actually do. So it's interesting. I'm going to go in at the bottom lashes exactly the same way. I think I need to work with a script. I don't know. When I used to act, I was good at this, but I'm not as a person. My life revolves so much around the theater and acting and that whole world. I remember falling in love, realizing that I was in love with my husband. When we went to the theater, we were sitting there in the orchestra in some great seats, and it was a musical, and all of a sudden we just looked at each other, and it was that look, and when you know, oh my God, I love this person, and you have this overwhelming feeling. It's funny because this therapist that I had known many years ago had called it the psychosis of love. It's really funny. That's before you have to live with all the realities of what it is. So it is interesting. All right, I think we're getting close to a look of some sort or another. I always do a little bit of tweaking, but what I want to do for you before I cut away from this and then just come back with the finished look is I want to do my whatever it's going to turn out to be. I had watched somebody from Sephora recently do a video in which he showed how to correct the circles under your eyes. And by the way, the circles under my eyes are there. However, do you realize how infinitely better they are than they used to be? Do you remember when they were really deep kind of gouges? I got a little bit of color, and I don't think it was fallout. I think I got it on with my own hand. Okay, so let me try. I'm going to try, it might be a mistake. What he had said was to go in with a darker color, but I need to be careful what I use because some of them crease, and the last thing I want is something that's going to crease. So I'm not going to do that. What I did yesterday, and it did crease, is the Argan Creamy Concealer in a dark color. Okay, it's the Catrice Camouflage Liquid. Let's see if that does anything. Now, the bad thing about this is that they have only 3 colors. So finding the right color is not necessarily easy. Let's see how this works. I'm not sure. I'm not at all sure on this one. Patting it in, I think, probably works better. This, by the way, is also waterproof, so that's good to know. I don't think it's terrible. We'll find out when I do my powder. The thing is, and I think what a lot of us do, certainly I know for myself, that what I do sometimes is I have too much of the product, and too much of a good thing can be too much of a good thing. So the face again. Oh my God, I'm so bad with the face. Okay, let's see how that plays out. I did not as yet. I'm going to try something a little different for me today. Let me do this and see how that works. And I will do it with a small brush. See how that plays out. Just a small little brush. Well, that was dopey because I pulled it down too far. And I don't love it anyway. I don't. Nope. That is not going to work. And I am noticing, now mind you, Tati had used this. And Tati is young and still has a perfect face. So I'm not sure on the Catrice. Let's hold judgment to see how it works over time. It is cracking everywhere. Not good. It is absolutely cracking everywhere. Not good. Looks like I'm going to have to go back to, go back to my Shape Tape because the Shape Tape does not crease. Okay, let's see. I don't know if I can do it on top. We'll find out. Whenever I do something like this and I see it all over the place, I think of the people who get on YouTube and say, don't put on your under eye concealer like a YouTuber. Well, I guess I'm a YouTuber. Yeah, I think I'm going to have to stick with my Shape Tape for now, unless somebody has a better idea for our skin, not for the young, gorgeous ones. When you're young and gorgeous and your skin is tight and wonderful, you can do anything you want. Yeah, this is definitely better. However, I'm going to have a problem with what already, look at this, even with the tiny little bit, it was way too much. I'm going to have a problem with it creasing anyway because I have the underlayment of the other product and it definitely is creasing. Oh, I hate when my makeup makes me look 110. My daughter-in-law's mother hasn't seen me since the summer, and when she saw me the other day, she said to me, "What did you do?" And I said, I learned how to use makeup. And she said to me, "No, there's something different." And I said, "No," I said, "You know, people in my office have told me that I look like I had a facelift or something." And she said, "Really?" She said, "You look really good." And then she said to me, "But then again, you have good genes." Well, I don't know. I had the same genes before. All right, this could kill me altogether. I had absolutely no idea that this had stopped videoing, so I don't even know where it got cut off. I need to free up some storage. I just keep getting locked out because of storage issues. Okay, take a look. My own lashes, 0 lashes. It looks like I have nothing. Look. I'm going to show you this because I'm still absolutely stunned by how well this thing works. Okay. And I did not do as good a job yesterday taking off my mascara. I was exhausted last night. I really was. I had to run a number of errands, and after the horrible experience the day before, and it was so draining that I really could not function very well yesterday at all. Now, everybody has their own way of putting their mascara on that works for them. But this is what works for me. even though today it looks a little bit clumpy. Ow. Oh, my hip is hurting me. Oh, it's so cold here. I cannot stand it. Okay, look at the one eye. No hocus pocus. I never in a million years would have bought this mascara. Never. It just, I'd never heard of it. I've never seen it demonstrated. I wonder if it's like everything else in life where you never heard of something happening until it happens to you, and then all of a sudden you hear about it all over the place. So I will look and see if anybody else demonstrated it on YouTube after I finish doing this. Okay, here's my second coat. I'm going to bring you in really close. Take a look. Look at this. This is crazy stuff. Okay, I'm going to do the rest of my makeup off camera because otherwise you're going to be spending the day with me and it's going to be the longest upload in the history of YouTube. So I'll be back shortly with the finished look. Okay, back with the finished look. I did notice when I was looking over the first part of the video that I had done that it cut out on the part where I showed you how, how I did my eyebrows. So I'll come back and do that another time. It's very simple the way I do mine. There's nothing very fancy to it, but it's very easy for me to do. And I certainly will show that to you again. So the finished look, I really like the way this eye look turned out. And I am still beyond amazed at the mascara. It's absolutely incredible. There are a couple of other, oh, that's nice. I got something red on my nose. Not quite sure what that was. Take two. So I'm really pleased with that, and a couple of other little products that I want to talk to you about, and I'll do that in an upcoming video very shortly. Let me know if you enjoyed this kind of thing, or if you want me to go back and stick to the kind of thing I've been doing before without getting so in-depth and without talking your ears off. So I'll talk to you soon. Have a great day, and let me know what you think. Bye-bye.